At the president's request, the Pentagon is diverting $3.6 billion in military construction funds to pay for the border wall. This is money to fund 127 facilities and projects, and among those who will suffer for it, military kids and their families. The wall is a polarizing issue, but whatever you think about whether the wall should be built, let's just put that aside for the moment, and let's just talk about what this means to military families. At Joint Base Andrews, where the president flies in and out of the Washington, D.C. area regularly on Air Force One, families really need a new daycare. They have needed this for years. And according to the Washington Post, the building that they're using now, which was constructed in the 40s, has multiple unusable rooms due to mold infestation. The air conditioning system is basically kaput, the heating system too, power outages. A car had even hit and damaged the building. And I can tell you that personally, as a military spouse with a husband who deploys, one of the greatest sources of stability for me is knowing that my kids are well cared for in a safe and healthy environment while I am at work. For many military families, that means on-base daycares or schools, like at Fort Campbell in Kentucky, where, as the New York Times reports, 552 students from 2 middle schools are squeezed into one as they wait for construction of a new school to accommodate all of them. A school where the air conditioning and the heating works properly, where there aren't multiple classes of kids in the same room struggling to concentrate as various lessons go on around them. But now those plans have been shelved indefinitely. The $60+ million that would have paid for the new facility is gone. And just to put that into perspective, this is Fort Campbell, home to, among others, the 101st Airborne, which has sent troops to the border on the president's orders, and also the 5th Special Forces Group. You might be familiar with their work. They are the commandos who entered Afghanistan about a month after 9/11, the legendary Green Beret horse soldiers who carried out a daring mission to link up with the Northern Alliance and oust the Taliban in an effort to end its safe harbor of Osama bin Laden and al-Qaeda militants who were responsible for planning and carrying out the September 11th attacks. That's the kind of stuff that these folks answer the call for, and their kids, like yours, deserve a middle school that is not packed to the gills and in disrepair. Military service is a family business, and that includes the kids. They move, they adjust, they sacrifice too, and our country has a covenant with military families that their needs will be met so they can serve, and our country is breaking that promise. Joining me now to discuss is one of the teachers at Fort Campbell, Jane Loggins. And Jane, thank you so much for coming on to talk about this. You are a military spouse. You teach at an elementary school there on base. And you're also a big figure in the union that represents these teachers. Tell me about your initial reaction when you heard that Fort Campbell wasn't getting this new middle school.
Well, thank you for inviting me to be on today. The initial reaction at Fort Campbell, I think, is just disappointment, a huge disappointment. We were promised that when the two schools merged together, it would be for approximately a year. This is the 3rd year now that those middle school children have been in a building that's an older building. There are problems, like you said, with the HVAC system, heating, cooling. They've had leaks. We have classes within classes where children have to pass through other classrooms to get to their classroom. And it's not the most effective environment for our children to be learning in. These are military children. These are military families. They put their lives on the line, and they deserve the best. They deserve the environment they were promised 3 years ago to learn in.
That's what promised 3 years ago, and that they thought that they would get really in just a year. I want to look at something that Senator Lindsey Graham said back in February about Fort Campbell potentially having to sacrifice this new school for the border wall. Let's listen.
Let's just say for a moment that he took some money out of the military construction budget. I would say it's better for the middle school kids in Kentucky to have a secure border. We'll get them the school they need, but right now we got a national emergency on our hands.
Do you think it should be a choice between these two things?
I don't want to get into the politics of the situation. What I do know is that what we do at Fort Campbell, educating military children, we do it very well academically, but there's a whole other side to it that you mentioned. Our families want their children in a safe location. They want them feeling secure. And there's a whole social, emotional side to what we do for those children. They've lived under the stress of war their entire lives, multiple deployments. We deploy probably more than any other base. And the military families should take a priority. That's the one middle school on Fort Campbell. There's no other option for them, and they deserve a quality school to go to.